reaching up and making the grab. Odell Beckham Jr. Stafford buys time. Protection is good, and so is the pass. Henderson came out of the backfield. Jefferson in motion. Henderson, nice cutback. Stafford rolling and throwing. Caught, touchdown. Stafford caught on the run. Cup, who else? Comes out of the slot to the right, looks that way, fires that way. Cup makes the grab at about the 18-yard line. Pass, Cup, got it, touchdown. Burrow trying to keep it going, gets spun down, gets it away, and incomplete. It looked like P-Ron might have had a shot to make the grab, but the Rams now running down to celebrate with a defensive play.
And guess who? Guess who? I mean, you don't even have to think about it. Do not even have to think about it.
Pointing to the ring finger.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. I am your co-host Ashton with my awesome co-host over here, Zach. How you doing, Zach? It's the middle of summer. I know every fan looks forward to absolutely mostly nothing happening. What you doing? Been going to the beach? Been having fun with the children?
Yeah, well, we don't really have too many beaches here in central Indiana, but I have tried to go out on the water as much as possible. No, yeah, we have a lake that's about an hour away that we get to enjoy. So having fun there. Man, that intro, I was dancing and I was afraid that I was going to be dancing to the beat of that intro while we were coming in. But no, good. Things are great. Things are great. Been really excited to see what was coming out of the Rams camp over the last several weeks. We got a few weeks lull with that, but yeah, I'm doing great. How about you? What you up to?
Nothing, man. Got to go to Canada, see the sights of Toronto. That's how they pronounce it there locally. So got to see a lot of beautiful parts of Canada. Got to see Niagara Falls. I would definitely recommend Niagara Falls and taking the boat down there. Really cool experience. So I got to add another country off my list. I am up to 17 now. So hopefully I can start hitting a little bit more Asian countries here in the next 5-10 years. When I get a little bit more money, it's not cheap. But for the most part, got to celebrate my wife graduating master's school and my brother-in-law and his wife graduating college. So a lot of good graduations, a lot of blessings, and just having a lot of fun.
Do we count Epcot countries? Like, do I count all those that I've been to? Because, that I could say I've been to all of those countries. I could tell you that I have not been out of the United States before. So that sounds like really fun thing to be able to do.
Yeah, it's definitely like some people hate traveling, and I totally get that. I'm a weirdo. I actually like sitting in airport terminals. Once I get through TSA and stuff, I'm really stressed until after I get through TSA and I'm sitting at the bench. I can sit at the bench waiting for my flight for hours and not care. Like, I'm perfectly fine. As long as I have like a cell phone or a laptop to just mess around on, I can do that for hours, and I actually don't hate it. Layovers really don't stress me outside of like 30 minutes or less, depending on how big the airport is. So in general, like, I enjoy traveling. I enjoy getting to a destination, and I enjoy seeing a lot of different stuff, experiencing different cultures. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who's adventurous, and I think you would have a lot of fun doing it, Zach. Probably when the kid's a little bit older, so it's a little bit less stressful for you. Kids going everywhere, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a bucket list item to do. Definitely when the kids are a bit older. But Let's talk about some Rams news. We had some pretty breaking news today that the Rams are signing a veteran, a former Ram, running back Sony Michel. How are you feeling about this news of bringing back, probably the one player who really helped push us over the edge and get us into, the playoff contention and ultimately to the Super Bowl?
Uh, are you talking about one of the top 5 running backs of all time, Sony Michel? I wish.
Definitely in the month of December, probably.
Yeah, so here's the thing about Sony Michel. I think we were going into that year, we didn't necessarily have our podcast going. So I felt kind of like it was a solid pickup. I thought we probably put a little bit too much towards the trade. I think we didn't get fleeced, so to say. I just think the Patriots kind of we overvalued him for what he was worth at that point in time with this contract. Fourth is pretty high for a running back with 1 year left who hasn't really produced a whole lot. That granted, I thought Sony Michel was good for what he had to go through, especially because people don't remember our rushing attack, especially in the first half of 2021, was not great. Now, yes, Cam Akers had injured himself, completely removed himself. We end up trading for Sony Michel last second to try to conjure something up. And our running room really struggled. You saw Daryl Henderson not be able to take off, struggle with injuries. Sony Michel was really the only person who was somewhat consistently healthy in that room. And he did a solid job. We still had one of the worst running games, even including the postseason that season.
Yeah.
So I am very reserved with this news. I appreciate it. He knows the system. He's veteran. We don't have a lot of running backs on our depth chart, so he helps with that. And if anything else, I think we'll get average to slightly below average uh rushing from him. But that's if our passing game is good, I think that's all we need. That's all we need in 2021. Do I think it's worth for this team to get a quality dynamic runner? Yes. I think it would help out a lot of our problems. The only thing is this team is not in a situation to really go for a premium rusher this season. And I think they're looking forward to next year. They're going to say they're not. They definitely are. So they're not going to trade for anyone or sign for anyone unless if it makes sense for 2024. It's nice that they help out in 2023. I'm not saying they don't want help for next year. That's going to be the priority. Zach, how do you view this? Are you jumping up and down? Are you ready to buy that Sony Michel jersey?
Wait, I should already have a Sony Michel jersey. That's what I should be pulling out. I should have. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have a Sony Michel jersey, but I think this is an interesting pick, and I kind of want to shoot out to Ramzilla for what he keeps. I keep seeing his posts on various different Twitter accounts, and it's the pass pro. It's really the pass protection that I think Sony Michel is going to help out and helped out in 2021. We saw what happened last year, and Cam Akers couldn't do it. Henderson really couldn't do the pass protection. They got Malcolm Brown. He couldn't do the pass protection. They tried Ronnie Rivers. No one could really do the pass protection. And that's what a running back's, second job really is. If you're not running,
our line couldn't do the pass protection last year.
Sure, but between the running back and the tight end, that's kind of their other dual purpose, is to help protect the quarterback. And so again, I think that was something that the Rams have always relied on. And they couldn't do it that year. And like you said, they picked Sony Michel up kind of as a last ditch effort because Cam Akers was done. He came off having a kind of a fire 2020 season, that kind of obviously ended as it did, but we were excited that we were going to finally have the running game back since Todd Gurley, and now we weren't. And so bringing in Sony Michel, yes, we knew he wasn't going to be probably the power horse that we were all expecting, but he did do the job well, especially in December. And apparently, December is the month of the Rams running back, because for some reason that's the time they kind of figure out how to run the ball and get it, because um, he was active all 17 games, so he was a healthy running back, with 845 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 208 carries. Not super impressive, but a lot of that was done in the month of December. So again, I agree with you. I'm not overly enthused, just because, I mean, he's not a quote unquote best running back ever, but I think that he does bring that veteran experience, like you mentioned. He brings in the stability. He brings in the potential for having better pass protection, and the Rams just like to have quality roles, quality veteran spots. I mean, if you kind of go back last year, I mean, Cam Akers was really the only, uh, they had Henderson too, and then they brought in Malcolm Brown and they got rid of Henderson. And so now this year, now it's just really Cam Akers. And so they want to bring another veteran experience who knows the system. And I think that's why they brought in Sony Michel. So I'm assuming it's a cheap deal. It's only a 1 year deal, which will kind of coordinate how we were able to afford him in our next part. But I think this is an interesting move, and I think this does bring the Rams forward in how they want to treat their offense. They want their offense to be weaponized, and I think this adds, whether it's a kind of a weapon to protect and to help release the rest of the weapons, or something else. I just think that this is a good move to help that running back room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was with the Chargers. He didn't really have a good year with them. So I don't anticipate him costing more than like the vet minimum, maybe 2 or 3 mil if the team is looking to be nice. Um, for someone who, again, you can't oversell the fact that he now knows our system. He was with Brandon Staley last year, so like a similar type of offensive system or adjacent. And then he was with us all of 2021. And it takes time to learn the system, especially in the running game. So like that's going to be very beneficial. And if you look at the higher budget names at running back, Zach, at their age points and the money they were asking, because I think Dalvin Cook is looking for a $10 to $12 million 1 year deal, 2 year deal that could potentially go up to 15 mil. This team is not in that situation to pay a running back that much.
Nope.
I think next off season, potentially, depending on who it is, I think Dalvin Cook would be worth that. Just not in a year like this. So Sony Michel, a solid option, and he'll be our running back too, Zach. Potentially our third down back, depending on how Cam Akers is going and the wear and tear on him. And we've already heard of some injuries. Not in the running back room, in other positions. So, yeah.
And again, I mean, this is so early on still. We still haven't even gone to training camp. We just finished mini camp and OTAs. So, like, I mean, he there's a potential he doesn't even make the 53-man roster. But at the same time, like I said, having that veteran experience, having someone in the room, I think, and again, for the potential risk of injuries, it's just something that you want to keep in that back pocket. And he's a solid play for that back pocket, second, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, or running back 2, running back 3 kind of spot.
Yeah, I'm way more excited for him than I was Malcolm Brown signing back. No, I like Malcolm
100%.
Brown personally. It's just
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I like Malcolm Brown. I thought he was a decent running back too. I mean, I think he was starting to get way past his prime, and maybe that might be the same thing with Sony Michel. I like Malcolm Brown because he was actually the person who kind of christened SoFi Stadium with the first touchdown in SoFi. So I just thought that was really cool. And so that's my history on why I like Malcolm Brown. Might not be great, but he does have that history making mark. So sorry to go on a tangent about Malcolm Brown. But how about you talk about why, we're able to make this kind of move, even if it might be, a veteran max?
Yeah, so Cooper Cup got restructured. The Rams went ahead and pushed some of that dead cap. We've been used to this. It kind of makes sense they would do that, at least with Cooper Cup this season, just because they needed a little bit more money to sign rookies. And I thought they were going to save it for flexibility for later in the season if they did want to trade, not huge trade, but kind of like a medium-sized trade for a player, or kind of just give them overall ability to sign free agents if people get hurt and stuff like that. So, I mean, no issue with this. Cooper Cup, I want him to be a Ram for life. I think Les Need is expecting that. At least at his age, he's going to play another 3 to 4 years. And he's never been the type of player. He's not like Tyreek Hill, where when Tyreek Hill gets a little bit older, what makes Tyreek Hill explosive? Yes, he's a really good route runner, but it's his speed mixed with his good route running. What makes Cup explosive and get open, and his ability to read coverages and run damn good routes. He is quicker than people expect, but I still think he will be able to produce Zach when he's a little bit older, past his prime. Uh, uh, I think he's going to be a guy who could transition into like not slot, but kind of like on the outside, quick slants. I think he's some guy who has more longevity than other people if they were like just purely faster type guys.
And I mean, he takes his job super seriously. He trains all the time, which again, not saying other wide receivers don't, but like his mind is set on football, his mentality, his social his just awareness of the situation. You know, there were things in the Super Bowl that him and Stafford were just like, we just got to do it. Like if we want to win, we got to win with us, and we got to win with our plan. And we saw that. We saw them do plays that they've only attempted a handful of times, in maybe once or twice actually successfully practicing it. And so it was that confidence and that just awareness that between Stafford and Cup, but like, you know, Cup can, or Stafford can make the decision to do it, but Cup has to be like, he has to be aware that this is everything. And, it's everything goes through Cup. I mean, he catches the ball. You see how many targets he gets, how many catches he gets. His percentage is just unreal on the targets and how much he actually on his receptions of those targets. So again, I think this is a good move. I think we always knew this. He was always going to get a payday, and his payday will always be there. But he's one of those players, just like Aaron Donald, who would take the flexibility of spreading that payment out a little bit to help boost his team. He's a team player. That is who Cooper Cup is. There is no I in Cooper Cup. So realistically, that's just where I see it. I mean, the other reason why they restructured this is that they were just running out of money. I mean, they were under $2 million, and they still needed to sign half of their draft picks still. So they were almost hemorrhaging money on trying to figure out how they were even going to pay their draft picks. So they, even with this move, and now after paying all the draft picks, I think there's still not going to be a whole lot left, and there's probably going to be just a very minimum amount that's going to be used for their emergency fund that they're going to need if they decide to be more competitive than what everyone believes that they're going to be.
But they can always restructure Aaron Donald, right?
They could.
I think Aaron Donald is definitely still an option for him. Stafford, I think, is a break glass. Like they would have to be. I think they would have to be like 6-2 by the time we have our break. our bye week, and I think if we're like 6-2 or 7-1, and they feel like we're really missing something from being that competitor team, then they would probably restructure Stafford and try to make a push this year.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah, Aaron Donald will be tricky. Just depends on how long he wants to play. I mean, obviously the Rams could pay him after he decides to retire, but at the same time, it's just going to be how Les Need and the front office figures things out. So we shall see. But we were talking about Matthew Stafford, and he's been in the news a lot lately. Some of it is because of his bright white teeth, which he's had them on for forever. So I don't know why that's now just becoming a big thing. But people are dissing him. How you feel about them dissing our QB1?
So Stafford got left out of the CBS Sport Top 100 players. I think it's not dissing as much as it is he's been underrated his almost entire career.
But Justin Fields was put on the top 100 list, and he had a full season with like 1,000 less yards than Stafford. Like, there are people on that list who do not deserve to be on that list, and yet Stafford, who has proved himself in Detroit, whether the team itself was successful or not, then he comes to a team 1 year off of his longest stint and wins the Super Bowl. Yes, he had one bad year because of depleting O-line, which then forced him to, get hit so many times. And we're taking that tiny, tiny percentage of something that wasn't necessarily his fault and putting him in the bad category. You tell me that if we did anything, if we had a draft of quarterbacks, he would go outside of the top 30?
He would.
I don't think so. There are not 30 better quarterbacks than Matthew Stafford.
I'm not saying that, but he's been consistently underrated his entire career. And, that's something I was arguing when we were talking about trading for him or not on Twitter. Like, there were some people saying, oh, he's just another Goff in Detroit. And it's like, no, look at his stats. He's like almost in top 15 for every passing category. And that's with historically terrible O-lines in Detroit and historically terrible running games. Like, no matter how much you try to say he pads his stats, it's just stupid arguments. I feel like people have always wanted to hate on him because people have never respected Detroit. No offense, Detroit fans. It's just like people have for a long time not respected Detroit because it's been a bad organization. And he kind of had a lot of that rub off because he actually wanted to stay there and try to change the culture and then instantly dip out when it was terrible. So, I kind of expect it. I don't think coming to the Rams and winning a Super Bowl was going to change it. He's going to have to win multiple rings for people to actually start respecting him. Like, someone like Phillip Rivers took forever for him to get the respect of his peers and like the football community. And even then, like, I would say he's still like a little bit higher reputation wise than Stafford, even though I think Stafford has better stats in every category. I'm not 100% sure on that, but either way, like, I would consider them in similar vein with Stafford being a little bit better player when it comes to critical games. I think that's where Rivers really struggled, and that's where I think Stafford does fantastic. But
Well, I hope this fuels the team. I hope this fuels Stafford. I mean, he's one of those players who likes to prove people wrong, and I think he's done it over and over again. Whether he was successful in Detroit, he wasn't as successful. Moved to the Rams, won a Super Bowl in his first year here. Yes, had a bad year, but again, I can't put all that blame is not put on that one person. I mean, even you look at Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald, again, two of the best players still in the NFL, and they were in the top 100. They were up in the top 30. Donald was 10 and Cooper Kupp was 6 or 26. Again, they were much higher last year in the same poll, but I still feel like you're putting players like Justin Fields, who hasn't even proven himself, to someone who is a proven quarterback. He is a good pocket quarterback. He may not have the running speed that he does, but he has the resume. He has the stats to push him into a spot where he should still be in contention. And you just look at him right now. You look that he looks healthy. If you're looking at some even it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. I can go on a rant. When Stafford came in, I was a Goff supporter. I didn't dislike Stafford, but I was a Goff supporter, and I am putting all my ammo behind Stafford because I am a believer. Like he put me into the believer role, and I just think it's just been unfair. So that's where I leave it with that.
Yeah.
Passionate. I'm very passionate about these topics.
Yeah, he's a gunslinger, and that comes with pros and cons. And I think a lot of people focus on the cons. And last year, it was a tough year, and he wasn't the problem with the team. If you watch those games, he wasn't the problem. There are plenty of problems around him. Defense just crumbling around him. The O-line just him getting beat the crap, and just like you're gonna throw picks in those situations. No one getting open outside of Cup until Cup gets hurt. Like it's rough.
And the
Zach,
play calling was not very good either. A lot of the play calling was just
I
horrendous.
mean, you had after a few weeks, you had McVay borderline being depressed and having our OC call all the plays, and yeah, he's not with us anymore, Zach.
Can I want to interrupt our scheduled what we have down, and I have a theory, and I want to talk about McVay for a second. And since we kind of talked about his mental health. So they just recently announced that they are having a baby boy who will be born sometime in the middle of the season, September, October time frame. Do we think that he stayed with the Rams because he's having a kid? Is that something that we could put out there as a possible theory, that being a head coach, even though yes, it's going to take time away and stuff like that, is that a more consistent job than what he would do if he was on the media side and having to travel to every city every week to cover whatever game he's covering? I don't know. I kind of was thinking about that when they posted it. I was like, that falls around, like they would have found out right around, maybe it was a little too soon, but like right around that time that he decided he was going to stick around. Because he took several weeks off. This was after the Super Bowl that he made the announcement that he was sticking around. So like, could those two things correlate a little bit?
I mean, timeline wise, it's possible. I don't know. Like, even then, you still have to travel as an NFL head coach a lot. No, it's only for 3 to 4 months out of a year. So
I mean, it's half the games. Half the games you're traveling out of state for. I mean, the Rams, they typically wait to leave at the last minute and come back at the last minute, and leave right after. But coaches do. I mean, especially Sean McVay. I mean, shoot, he's in there before everyone wakes up, and he's the last one to leave. So like, it's not like he's going to be there, a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. He's there at 4 a.m. and probably doesn't leave until 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. So, I mean, I'm sure he's there around the clock as it is. But
not to
it's kind of
mention,
interesting.
a lot of those analysts do it from studios that are remote, and like he can have one down the road.
Sure, I guess it
from
just
his
it just
house.
depends on what he was looking at doing. Was he actually looking at calling plays? Like, was he going to be one of the a broadcaster, or was he going to be someone like in the Fox booth doing that? Which they're mostly in LA. So, he could have done that too. So I
I
don't know.
think he was probably going to be an analyst or like Fox booth person. I don't think he was going to call plays. But who knows? He could change his mind at any point, or he just decided this is better for his family or for his personal situation. I mean, no matter what, I don't like to get in other people's heads. I just think he was going through a rough time, a lot of struggles, and I'm happy he decided to stay. I love him as coach, and I hope his baby everything happens smoothly with that.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. Thought I would bring it in. If you have comments, please send them to us. You can, put us down there at East Coast Rams on Twitter, or email us feedback at East Coast Rams. Just to plug that in and get you guys kind of integrated into our podcast. All right, let's talk about minicamp. You want to break down some minicamp news?
Uh, did you want to talk about Behind the Grind because they finally released the second
They
episode?
they did, and I do appreciate some of the Rams producers out there was like this takes a lot of content. I know we last time we kind of complained like it's taking forever for them to keep doing this, but it does. They do produce it really well. It's a high quality video that takes tons and tons of hours of editing and just getting the shots right and doing things like that. I know they're not doing like reshoots because obviously they're taking live footage, but I thought it was great. It was a really cool episode. I think I even posted a Twitter post that I really enjoyed them highlighting some of the job roles that aren't normally highlighted. I was really ecstatic about that. Coming from IT,
Oh
you are
yeah,
too. So like
IT.
just knowing like the process, because I do this on a day-to-day basis. It's not glamorous. We don't have a glamorous job. I do video streaming for where I work, and so you know I know the process of having to set up a facility or set up a remote facility and get something up live, and making sure your connections are working. What's your backup connections? And all that thought process goes into it. And so to do something like the draft off site is scary for your IT professionals because, if something goes wrong, just like they said, like if all of a sudden their network goes out and they're on the clock, like that's doomsday for that organization. So, really glad that they highlighted that on top of all the other things that they highlighted. But do you want to go through some of the more specific things that they did?
Yeah. So they did film a promo with the Breaking Bad guys to announce the draft lab. Again, we talked about this before. I wasn't the biggest fan of the branding this year of the draft announcements. They did what TikTok. I didn't like that. Again, fine if you did. Fine if you guys. I like Breaking Bad. I'm not the biggest fan of Breaking Bad. I thought it was neat. But like I don't know. It's the whole like draft house and draft lab like that stuff to me. I prefer like watching the reactions with the rookies and like seeing that interaction. That's what I love from the draft.
Okay, so
And
I've
them,
I've I've never seen like I've only watched maybe 2 episodes of Breaking Bad. I know we're probably gonna lose subscribers. I'm gonna lose followers because I've never seen the show. But like they cooked meth, right? Like that they were cooking like
yes,
the
yes,
hard
it
illegal
was
drugs, right?
it was a high school science teacher who was basically broke and wanted to get some money. And so he started cooking meth and started selling it.
I mean, I know this is a super popular show. I know all the characters of the show. I know they rebranded into Better Call Saul. Like I know the kind of the history behind the show itself. But I
That's
was
a prequel, not a rebrand.
correct, but it was after the show. It was shot. The Better
Yes.
Call Saul was after Breaking Bad finished, even though it was a prequel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a spinoff.
spinoff. That's the word I was looking for. But that show hasn't like Breaking Bad is kind of outdated. I not outdated like people don't watch it, but like that was so long ago. Like that's just not relevant anymore. And that's where I'm like, I just didn't feel the relevance of the Breaking Bad. Like I get it. I knew who the characters, even though I have never seen the show. I get that I knew who the characters were. I knew what they were doing. I understand. I just like I kind of agree with you. I just think this was a misstep. I don't think it was something. Um, I think it just wasn't relevant. And I feel like they could have picked something else to
Well,
brand themselves a little better.
So, like, the PR person on the video was like, we want to reestablish and like get fans into the mood. I'm like, you know what gets me into the mood? I want to listen to GM talk football and explain why our team only had 4 of the 5 wins last year. I don't want to watch actors in a paid promo, and this is just me being real, and you guys give them a bunch of gear and stuff, and like, yeah, that's nice for a team to get to meet those actors and stuff like that, and I don't mind stuff like that every so often, but I felt like they've done that a few years in a row now where I'm getting a little tired of it, because I feel like the PR team needs to focus on just building up the image of this team instead of like focusing on celebrities. I get it's LA. I get we want a bit of that star element there. It's just you can't let it oversaturate the football or overtake the football. That, I guess, that's my
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, and I think their point is they are LA, they are the Hollywood team, they are supposed to, wham glam, and that's how SoFi's built. It's built for the stars, it's built for that LA presence. And so for us who don't live in that LA lifestyle, I think it does push us away a little bit from that aspect of it. I understand why they did it, but again, I feel like you could have chosen someone who maybe might be a Rams fan, or something that may be a little bit more relevant today. Um,
Not Danny Trejo though.
no, no, I'm done. I'm kind of done with that. But again, I feel like they could have done something that kept it Hollywood, but kept it real, or kept it now, and because I
What?
get
Why
where
not
they're
do
at.
like movie posters with the new players on the team,
Sure,
or like that mock other real life movie posters? Like that would have been a great idea with the new draft picks or something like that. It
sure.
it just, if you ask people who's the best PR team, or let's say yeah, media relations in the NFL, on Twitter or in general, who puts out the best content for their fans, I would say the Chargers, not the Rams. Chargers,
I don't know. I mean,
I
I
think the
really
Chargers have a really good social media team.
So I think the Chargers have done well in many aspects that I think the Rams have not done so well. I think obviously I'm a big fan of the anime draft videos that they put out. I thought those were really high quality, really well done made. I don't know how well that relates. That relates to me. I don't, but like you watch on the Pat McAfee show, and they're like, "Yeah, we get it, but it's a cartoon." They think it's cool, but how much does that relate to everyday Los Angeles,
But the
folk?
point is, they're getting on the Pat McAfee show. They're doing related stuff
That's true.
that it relates to a younger audience, and I feel like just throwing out a bunch of cameos, it's fine to a certain extent. I just think the Rams do a little bit too much. Because
Correct. I will agree. I think that they are pushing that envelope too far and too much. I will 100% agree with you on that.
so they had that promo. They had a potential trade up in the first round. You got to see some of those conversations. This is the meat of the stuff that I love, Zach. I love draft scenarios. I love draft trades. Like, that's why the draft is like, it's really hard to judge. Uh, because me and you have our own values of prospects and what we think, and then GMs have their own values and prospects, and then everyone else has their own values and prospects, and it doesn't matter if the entire internet thinks a certain running back should go in the 6th round. If 30 out of the 32 GMs think he should go in the 2nd round, he's going to probably go in the 2nd round. And that's where it's hard. And I'm not saying GMs don't make mistakes; they make tons of mistakes. The hit rate in the draft is very low for a reason. But what I'm trying to say is, like, they are what matter, and like their decision making process is interesting to me. So, Zach, what did you make that the rumor was they were trying to trade up to get, I think, a tight end? Do you think that was a good decision? I know we talked about it a little bit on those draft pods.
I do trust in Les Snead, and I trust in what he was trying to do. I felt like during the draft time, and we already had Higby, we already had Hunter Long. I just don't know, unless you were really trying to move Higby out of the play. I don't really know what else you were getting from that. Having a first round tight end, yeah, sounds great, but I felt like there was other positions that really need looked at before the tight end spot. So wasn't my personal. I really wouldn't have liked that, but um, again, I do enjoy, like you said, I love seeing the discussions. Like I feel like that's super cool that we get to kind of be in the room and kind of hear how that discussion process went.
Well, after we declined to trade into a first round, we end up drafting Avila with our second round pick, and potentially getting another player with our what uh second, third pick. So we ended up having no picks in the fourth and fifth round. And Zach, they ended up deciding potentially to trade back or not, and you got to see some of that dialogue, them making cold calls, and it hurts my heart, Zach, because you know this. We traded away the pick Hyatt got drafted with, and I think it's a great landing spot for Hyatt. I think he's gonna explode on the Giants. I really do. He is definitely someone I'm going to try to pick up in the later rounds of fantasy for the Giants. I think because the Giants are in such a need of a really good wide receiver, and I think he's kind of like going to be that answer for them. What'd you make of that trade in general?
Uh, I'm kind of on your side of things. Yeah, I think that's about all I got to say about it. I really agree. I think that it was. I wish we would have kept that spot, but I understand why they did it.
Yeah, we got Stinson Bennett with it, so I missed out on one guy and got another guy I wanted. A little higher than I expected, but uh, I
Yeah,
think
we'll talk. We'll
looks
talk a little bit about
great.
him soon.
Yeah. Well, talk about a segue, Zach.
Yeah.
See, we're getting a lot better at this, guys. Mini camp. Let's talk about Stenson Bennett. There's been a few bright spots, and shout out to Ramswire and Cam De Silva. Great website. Definitely go out there. It's a really good source for Rams news. Uh, Kyron Williams, Tutu, and Stenson Bennett have been the highlights of camp. There have been some videos of Stenson Bennett slinging it. And I said this on draft night when a lot of fans were going nuts. They were pissed that we drafted this Georgia kid who has won 2 national championships. Now, I'm not saying there haven't been bad QBs to win a national championship. Definitely have been. But the win 2, that's a pretty short list, Zach. And let alone, like, I watched this Georgia team before he got there. And I never said this with the QB before him, Jake Fromm. Okay, like Jake Fromm was a system QB. Stinson Bennett pushed that offense to another level that I didn't think the Bulldogs were capable of. I really thought if they were going to win, they were only going to win because their defense was scoring every game. And that was going into 2021. And then or 2022. And then they exploded when he came and started. And this is a walk on. So not only a great story, just I think his play stands for itself, and he just needs to work on that deep ball, which ironically is what we saw a lot of videos of. Zach, what do you make of this? Are you still? I know you were a little bit more hesitant of Stinson Bennett when we drafted him.
Yeah, and
And
I
what
mean,
do you?
yeah, I think it comes down to like, was he drafted too low? Probably. I mean, I think, or drafted
Too
too
high.
high.
Yeah.
I think that would be accurate. But the Rams wanted him. That it was on their board. They wanted him. they went for him, they got him. So, we're putting all of our kind of our eggs kind of in this basket because that's QB1 and QB2. We haven't really, they did pick up a couple other ones, but realistically, these are the two that we're seeing, and these were the two that we'll be playing with. So, and hopefully we won't see Stetson Bennett out on the field unless he's doing a victory formation. So, realistically, I think this is a good move. I think the only thing I've seen is good things from his highlights. Obviously, the coach staff aren't going to say negative things about him, but they seemed pumped. Listening to some of the players, even just talking about him, it just seems like he brings a sense of energy. He brings a sense of enthusiasm in what he's doing. He understands what's happening. He's a fast learner. All good things to hear when you're kind of keeping your mostly your ears, open to kind of cue words that kind of coaches say to kind of give enthusiasm, but not really mean it. And so,
yeah. So Kyron Williams also a bright spot. He was hurt for most of last year. Kind of a little troublesome. It wasn't troublesome. I'll say this. I think he was being a slower learner than the staff was letting it out to be because they were not giving him starts when he was healthy. When our backfield was just a complete dumpster fire last year, and there was no reason not to give him the ball more. So, yeah, I'm happy to hear it. I like this tape coming out of college last year. I wasn't the biggest fan. There were other running backs I wanted more. But, I'm hoping he brings a different element to this offense this offseason and he grows more. And Tutu. Yeah, you got comments on Kyron or Tutu? Your favorite wide receiver?
Yeah, so Tutu, I really hope he gets his shot, and I hope he does well because he's a fast kid, and we've seen some great plays with him, and I mean he's our speedster. I mean we saw him in this past season, even when the Rams weren't at its best, still being able to get him the ball downfield. He was able to run past defenders, and he was able to secure the ball and was able to get it in there. So I'm really excited for him. I'm really glad to see all the highlight videos that we have seen so far of him, and just the energy. Like you listen to Sean McVay, and you can kind of tell when he's either giving kind of, I wouldn't say fake praise, but giving not the most
empty.
Yeah, it's kind of an empty. So again, I'm really glad that I feel like we're really hearing good things from it. This running back or this wide receiver class, wide receiver group is really interesting. I don't think anyone right now, other than Cooper Kupp, can you guarantee is going to be 2 through whatever. Even though yes, Van Jefferson probably will be wide receiver 2, but he is our wide receiver 2. Because that is it, but I don't know if he's going to be there for the future. This is, I think this is his last year under rookie contract. So I doubt that they're going to re-sign him. And so we're going to be looking to these other players. And so really everyone other than Cooper Kupp is going to be fighting for wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3. And I think 2 has the ability to be in that 3-4 slot.
Yeah, we will definitely see now some talking about wide receivers a little bit more. Jefferson and Ben Skoranek are being limited right now. And Trey Hodges-Tomlinson also is dealing with a hamstring injury. Zach, I really hope this is not the bug coming back from last year.
Yeah, I don't remember what Jefferson's issue was. I knew he had a rest day, but I didn't know.
I
didn't know
think
about
he had
the
an
injury
ankle.
part.
So from what I was reading, his ankle, they said ankle soreness. Now, again, I'm not saying I don't trust the Rams with medical news, but they do lie a lot about medical news.
They don't lie. They just don't tell you the truth.
I mean, they pretty much lied about Todd Gurley in 2019. Let's be honest.
I mean, and for the most part, they kind of more or less.
And about Stafford's back last year. So
and his elbow. I mean, they said he had a problem
and
with his
elbow. And then like this offseason, they're like, oh yeah, his elbow was bothering him the whole year. I'm like, you said he was perfectly fine last year.
Yeah.
Like I
Yep. That's our Rams coaching staff for you right there. Let's hide the
yeah.
truth. We won't lie to you, but we just won't tell you what's actually happening.
And like to be fair, other teams will just straight up not say anything, which is
Oh,
what they
sure.
should do. Uh but instead the Rams for some reason they do it in such a weird way
Yeah.
where they try to comfort you by saying nothing's wrong when you're like, but not looking like he's fully 100. No, everything's right. Everything's right. It's kind of like if you're married, you'll ever you know when you're like in the other room and you broke something and your wife's like, "Is everything okay?" And you're like, "Yeah, it's all okay." And you're like trying to duct tape it together before she comes in. Like it's that type
Super
deal.
glue. Super glue. They'll never
Yes.
know.
Yeah, and it's you get yelled at later, same thing.
But Ben Skronik is kind of a worrisome. I mean,
Mhm.
you haven't seen him at all, really in OTAs or minicamp. So again, this is giving those other receivers time to shine and letting Puka and Tutu and even some of these new guys that they brought in chances to really put themselves um, to that, 2, 3, 4, even, really, we're going to see 4 and 5s play a lot more than most other teams probably will play them. So, we're going to have, at least 7 receivers on this team. And, you know, who's going to make it to that list? I could probably say definitely Cup, definitely Van Jefferson. I think those two are obviously locked in the top 7. Other than that, Tutu, he should be in there. Puka will probably definitely be in there. If Skoranek can stay healthy, he should probably have a slot. But there's a lot of players. The Rams just hired or signed what 2 or 3 other
Demarcus
receivers.
Demarcus Robinson,
Yeah,
and I
so he was
think
the latest one.
I I think he will make the roster.
Yeah, but then you're going to have people like probably one of my favorite picks of last year was Lance McCutcheon. I really thought he has potential. We just haven't seen anything from him. So he's probably the one who will be on that very last pick. If he is not wide
Practice
receiver
squad.
7, he'll be put
I
on the practice squad or cut. I mean, people get picked up from the practice squad all the time. So I could see him departing the Rams if that becomes the
I
case.
didn't he get put on the practice squad last year at a point in time?
Potentially. Yeah. I don't remember, but it would
Yeah.
make sense.
So either way, I think
I
he's
s-
gonna get put on the practice squad. I would be surprised
I
because it seems like Puka Nakua is kind of like filling in that role that we kind of expected from Lance McCutcheon.
Sure.
But then again, like we did lose A Rob, and he's like basically what they wanted in A Rob, even though they didn't use him like that.
Sure. Yeah.
Like
So we'll see. But that's kind of where I'm at with receivers. It's like it's going to be close. And, I really wanted Lance McCutcheon to kind of take over Van Jefferson role when he decided to either get the bigger contract somewhere else or the Rams just moved on. I thought he could kind of fill in that spot because he had potential last year in preseason. We just never got to really see that on the field during
mm,
regular season.
mm. I think our problem is we have a ton of like decent third wide receivers. Cooper Cup being a first, but we haven't had a second wide receiver outside of OBJ in 3 years.
Yeah. I mean,
So
yeah, between him and Robert Woods, like you know,
yeah,
that year we
when
could have had Robert Woods, OBJ, and Cooper Cup. Like how mind-boggling was that? It could have potentially been, but we did not.
yeah. So let's talk about the O line. Two things from that. It looks like Coleman Shelton is winning out reps at center from Brian Allen currently. Lisa Minicamp again. This went back and forth 2 years ago. It went back and forth a lot. I think last year it was what Brian Allen that kind of got the start from beginning of the season, and then everyone got hurt. So who knows who's going to end up starting at beginning of year? But right now, looks like they're favoring Shelton, and Logan Bruss is starting for Rob Habenstein whenever he's resting.
I
Interesting.
think that's good. I think that's a good move. I mean, they're trying to get, I mean, he was their first pick last year, and they're really trying to get him back into the play since he was out all year because of that injury in preseason. So I think it's a good move to put him in that first man reps. As far as Brian Allen goes, again, I will be fine which either direction they choose. If they choose Coleman Shelton, fine. If they choose Brian Allen, fine. I think Brian Allen does a fine job. They did extend his contract, last off season, which obviously the whole O line was a hot mess express. So that's not really something to gloat about, but it could also be something that they're just, having a starter, having a first, a starter on your second and third team, helping out that O line to be more consistent, giving, your RB2 or your QB2 a starting center. It might be a good thing. Again, speculative because we're not there, but you know, if you're trying to think of the best, if you're a real big Brian Allen fan and don't want him to lose his job, you could think of it that way.
I mean, I don't think center has been our biggest issue. Both of our guards in the last 2-3 years have been
Sure.
terrible.
Yep.
I think it's a big deal that we got Avila. I think he's going to be the rock at left guard for years to come. And I'm hoping Bruss can stay healthy and get the start at right guard, and we can see what we have in him if he can be. And if they both work out, we have a solid right tackle. Left tackle is to remain be seen, but if, let's say, Shelton or uh, Allen are just average, then that's a decently to above average O line right there. Just
Yeah, I think
if again, it's a lot of question marks though.
it is, and we're going to have to see training camp and see preseason. I mean, I know preseason they don't play starters, so it's going to be hard to say, anyways. But I definitely think Avila. I will tell you right now, Avila will not play preseason. Mark it down. Put me in the bingo book. He will not play preseason. They don't want Logan
I
Bruss 2.0. They do
I
not want that to happen again.
so I actually think this year's going to be a weird year because I think they're going to start a lot of rookies in preseason. I think they're going to play a lot of, especially defense. I think
I don't. I will
almost the entire
disagree.
defense outside of Aaron Donald will play. For specifically Avila,
I'm talking Avila specifically. He will not be in the preseason. He will be a starter. I'm putting this down, but he will be he
okay.
will be a starter, which means he will not play any preseason snaps. That is my way far off prediction that, you know,
I would say that's like 60-40. I could definitely see them favoring leaving him out, especially after what happened last year. But last year makes me think that they're not opposed to starting a rookie on the O line to help them gel.
uh, sure. I mean, I don't see it. I mean, I see it. I see what you're saying. I'm going with I'm putting my sword in the
No.
sand, and I'm sticking to
I,
my
I'm
crazy
not.
bet.
I'm not gonna die on any. I'm not gonna die on this hill, Zach.
I'm not going to try to persuade you. I'll die on my hill by myself. It's fine. All right. Anything? I guess the only thing is about kicker. Do you want to talk about our kicker situation? I
I
didn't
love
even
a
realize.
good.
I didn't even realize that we. I mean, I saw the headline and I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize we already chose the kicker so soon. I thought we would at least wait through training camp or something."
And it's really not the one people thought they were gonna go with either.
I know. I am surprised as you are. Well, maybe not you, but I am surprised. I'm animated tonight. I think I've had too much caffeine.
This team and kickers. If Matt Gay didn't fall in their lap, I have no clue where we would be with kicker. Uh, we'd be like the 49ers drafting a kicker in the third round, I guess. Uh, honestly, it's looking like we'll probably sign like Robbie Gold for a vet minimal. I guarantee you that's going to happen. Or
I
like
will
a
take it.
veteran kicker.
I will
Like
take that.
we'll see though. Maybe this Tanner Brown kid, he's impressed and they want to see how he does in preseason. And they're like, oh, yeah, you missed single kick, ooh, good luck.
Wouldn't it be
Or
great if we got gold and then we beat the 49ers both times? Like, wouldn't that just be something?
I don't know, man. This team ran with one of the worst kicking games in 2020 for a long time. It was bad, and we knew it was bad, and they stayed with that badness for a while until cutting him. Sam Sloman. Oh my gosh.
I don't want to talk about it. Let's move on. So our kicker is Tanner Brown
For now.
for now. I really thought it was going to be done, but
Me too.
something must have happened. Don't know. Didn't get to watch it. Put up a highlight reel, somebody. I want to see it. You would have had to videotape illegally, so you probably don't want to post it, but I would like to see it. So DM me if you want to send me that footage.
No.
Anyways. So there really isn't any other news. I mean, Cooper Kupp just kind of came back and kind of did some things towards the end, but he's Cooper Kupp, so not shocked. Aaron Donald didn't participate much, but again, he doesn't have to because he's Aaron Donald. When you're the best football player in the league, you kind of do whatever you want.
Yeah, when you're the best D lineman and the best wide receiver in the league, you can kind of skip. You can skip meetings every so often, and
just don't skip leg day. We need you to be strong in the legs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just always told never skip leg day. Thought I would mention it. So
got to keep those gains.
Yes. So I think that's about it. Do you have anything interesting that we want to talk about before we drop this pod?
No, man. Just typical summer. We ended up having a little bit more to talk about because of Sony Michel. Thank you, Sony. Giving our pod a little bit more fuel. I think our next podcast will be dropping probably 2-3 weeks, depending on if any news happens. You never know with this team.
Yeah, so right now we are in. If you don't know, we are kind of we're on the Rams on a break. They get to kind of take some vacation time before they have to go back into training camp, which starts at the end of July. So there might not be a whole lot of news that comes out. It's like you said, we may take some time off, but eventually we have to start breaking down these games before they happen to see what our, kind of give a breakdown of the predictions, I guess, as well. So that will be kind of fun to do. Figure out who also is going to be in our 53-man roster. I think that would be a fun episode. Yeah. And we're going to start planning our kind of fun meetups and stuff in Indy. So we'll be hopefully getting some stuff working on that for you guys. And then I will at least be in Cincy to go to the Bengals versus Rams game. Are you attending any other games? Did you say you were going to Baltimore maybe?
Yes. So I will definitely be going to Indy so we can hang out, do a lot of cool stuff there. Cincy is more of like, it depends on the finances, and that's going to be a little bit more last second money-wise. Just because Baltimore is so close to me, I'll probably end up going to Baltimore. If it becomes like between Baltimore and Cincy, I'll probably choose Baltimore just because of the money stuff. But
yeah, no worries.
Yeah,
but we'll try to do some fun stuff. We got some plans. We've been working on some stuff that we haven't shown off yet, so we'll get those balls rolling before the season starts. But we're really excited about what is to come. We're really trying to get this to keep on growing. So if you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, smash the bell, do what all you can to help promote us. If you don't watch YouTube and you're listening to the audio podcast, please leave us a review. That's another just great way that you could do this. We're ad free. Did you hear an ad before the podcast? Well, maybe if it's YouTube, but that's not our control. But on the podcast, no ads, because we do this for you guys. So it's fun. Free thing you can do is just like, subscribe, share, retweet, interact with us. Just we're trying to keep this a fun community. So yeah, please keep it up, Ramley. Ashton, any last final words before I close us out with my end script, if I find it?
No, just like and subscribe, guys. We appreciate all the love you guys do send our way. If you have comments or questions, or you want us to talk about a topic on next podcast, or something that like an opinion, a hot take, we'll take anything. Just shoot it at our Twitters. You can tag us. You can tag the podcast. Uh, we're definitely down to talk about anything. And if you want to come on the pod, we do that every so often. Just shoot us, either me or Zach, directly a message, and we'll try to hopefully get something scheduled. We love doing podcasts, guests, and it adds a little bit of spice, Zach, just a little bit of spice to the podcast.
Oh yeah, we want to know your Ram story. We want to know why you became a Ram, how you became a Ram. Do you motivate your family to become Ram? Where do you take your Ram fandom to the most extreme? So please keep interacting with us. It's really fun. But we're going to close out this episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. Again, you can find us at youtube.com/@East Coast Rams, and you can find us at Twitter @East Coast Rams. You can also go to our website, www.eastcoastrams.com. A lot of East Coast Rams. And you can find me at Zach Mayer. You can see my Twitter handle there. And you can find Ashton at Rams Fan Ashton. Ooh, Mike, over there. Still getting used to this whole video portion of it. So please like and follow us there as well. Yeah, we're going to keep it going. Ramley, we'll see you guys next time.